when Nell joined Carlos King's podcast to finally speak her truth. And let me tell you, this conversation was not one that fans will forget anytime soon. It was filled with emotions, confessions, old wounds being reopened, and some very real conversations about respect, marriage, cheating rumors, and what it truly means to be transparent in front of the cameras. So stay tuned until the end of this video because we're going to break down every detail of what Nell said, why it matters, and how this could shift the dynamic of the entire cast moving forward. Trust me, you don't want to miss a second of this. The first thing that stood out in this podcast episode was the way Nell came in with a certain energy. She made it clear that she still feels some type of way about Tisha disrespecting her husband, Chris Fletcher. Nell explained that in her eyes, when Tisha confronted her husband directly, it wasn't just about Chris, it was about disrespecting her as his wife. That's a strong statement, because in marriages, many people believe that if you have an issue with a man, you should go to his wife about it. But in this case, Tisha felt like Chris had disrespected her marriage by saying that the whole NDA situation sounded like something her husband Martell Scott would do. And once that came out, the tension grew bigger than anyone expected. This whole thing ties back to old drama. Remember when Martell was accused of cheating in Atlanta? The situation was messy. Martell told Tisha in the parking lot that he was with a friend, and that friend was Chris Fletcher. But when Chris later clarified that he had only seen Martell briefly, it made everything look suspicious. Nell even joked about how she and Chris went somewhere simple like Piccadilly, Home Depot, or KFC, and she had receipts to prove that she was there in Atlanta at the same time. But because Martell's story was shaky, the rumors spread, and suddenly everyone wanted answers. That's where the tension between Nell and Tisha really began to build. On the podcast, Carlos King asked Nell to speak openly about something even deeper: infidelity and what hurts more in a marriage, an emotional affair or a physical one. This was one of those real-life moments where viewers stopped and thought about their own relationships. Nell admitted that both are terrible, but she leaned towards saying that emotional affairs cut deeper. She explained that women are emotional by nature, and when a man connects to another woman emotionally, that bond can be harder to break than just a physical encounter. Claudia Jordan, who was also part of the conversation, agreed, saying that when women fall in love, it's often about what they hear and the emotional connection, not just physical intimacy. Fans immediately felt the weight of that conversation, and many said this was one of the most raw and relatable moments they've heard from Nell so far. But things didn't stop there. Another big topic that came up was Nell's son Lance and her decision to help him with his newborn baby. Some fans online criticized Nell for being too involved, saying her son is grown and should be able to handle his responsibilities as a father on his own. But Nell explained that the only reason she stepped in was because she was also part of THL. As a part of the safety plan for the child, she shared how her son Lance is a hard worker, a hands-on dad, and someone who goes above and beyond for his kids. For Nell, helping him wasn't about babying him, it was about supporting her family while also making sure her household stayed peaceful. She admitted that she sometimes prefers staying at Lance's house because at her own home, she and Chris want their privacy and their time together as a couple without the chaos of kids running around. The way she broke it down made so much sense, and Carlos, Claudia, and Dustin all agreed that without her explanation, people could easily misunderstand her actions. This also tied back to Destiny Payton, another cast member, because Carlos pointed out how Destiny might have been drawn to Lance after seeing his work ethic and how he handles his responsibilities. That connection stirred up more discussion because Nell admitted that she never wanted her son and Destiny to get involved in the first place. She said when relationships don't work out, she's the one left in the middle, having to hear both sides and deal with the stress. She confessed that being caught in the middle of her son's situation, her godson's feelings, and Destiny's side was overwhelming. Nell even admitted she felt like she needed therapy just from being dragged into everyone else's problems. That level of honesty made fans connect with her even more because she was showing the exhaustion that comes from being a mother and grandmother, while still trying to manage her own marriage with Chris. Of course, the conversation came back to Letitia Scott. Nell admitted that she initially told Tisha it was okay to talk to Chris about the NDA comment. But what she didn't expect was for Tisha to come in hot, going straight into attack mode with her hand, gestures, and harsh tone. Nell said that if Tisha had simply pulled Chris aside and had a calm conversation, things would have gone differently. But instead, the confrontation escalated, and Nell felt like she had to step in. That's why, in her mind, Tisha crossed the line. It wasn't the conversation itself, it was the way she handled it. When asked about transparency, Nell made another powerful point. She said she's tired of people like Tisha and Kimmy Scott, always questioning her family but refusing to talk openly about their own issues. She pointed out that when it comes to rumors of cheating, people expect her to address them right away. But when similar rumors come up about Martell or Maurice, suddenly it's all off limits. Nell said that's not fair and that if you don't want to talk about your own marriage, then you shouldn't come poking around in hers. Fans immediately saw this as a clapback toward Kimmy and Tisha, who have often tried to dodge certain rumors on the show. This dynamic between Nell and Tisha is one of the most fascinating storylines right now, because it's not just about the husbands. It's about two strong women standing their ground. Nell feels disrespected because Tisha came at her husband too aggressively, while Tisha feels disrespected because Chris Fletcher made a comment that she thought was a direct attack on her marriage. When you put both perspectives together, it's clear that this is a conflict with deep roots that goes back years, all the way to those infamous Atlanta cheating allegations. Carlos King, being the skilled interviewer he is, pushed Nell to really open up about her feelings, and she did not hold back. She called out the double standards, admitted where her husband went wrong, and stood firm on her belief that Tisha crossed a boundary. But what really made fans respect Nell more was the fact that she didn't just blindly defend Chris. She admitted that he messed up too by making the NDA comment. That level of honesty is rare in reality TV, and it showed viewers that Nell isn't afraid to hold her own husband accountable. Another key moment in the podcast was when Nell described how exhausting it is to always be painted as the loud, crazy one. She said people accuse her of not listening, of being over the top, but in reality, she feels like she's the one always listening to everyone else's problems. She's the one absorbing the drama, the arguments, the complaints, and then getting labeled for being outspoken when she finally speaks her mind. Fans who watched this part said they saw Nell in a whole new light, and it made them realize just how much she carries behind the scenes. What makes this storyline so intense is that it doesn't just involve Nell and Tisha. It ropes in Martell, Maurice, Kimmy, Chris, and even Destiny. Every time one of them makes a move or a comment, it sets off a ripple effect that brings the drama right back to Nell's doorstep. That's why fans are watching this so closely, because it feels like we're watching years of secrets. Lies and hidden feelings all come to the surface at once. So the real question now is, can Nell and Tisha move forward? Or has too much damage been done? From the way Nell spoke on the podcast, it seems like she's not holding a grudge. But she also isn't willing to let disrespect slide. She wants honesty, fairness, and respect for her marriage. And she's not afraid to call people out when they don't give her that. And as for Tisha, fans know that she's fiercely protective of Martell. So she's not going to let anyone talk about her husband without responding. That clash of personalities is what makes this such must-see TV. This whole situation also opens up bigger questions for the cast of Love and Marriage. Huntsville. How much transparency is too much? How do you balance protecting your marriage while also being real for the cameras? And when it comes to defending your spouse, where's the line between loyalty and overstepping? These are the questions that fans are debating online, and it's clear that the answers aren't simple. By the end of the podcast, it was clear that Nell had not only defended her marriage, but also laid out her truth in a way that fans respected. Whether you agree with her or not, you can't deny that she brought raw honesty to the table. And that's exactly what keeps the audience hooked. With all the drama between Nell, Tisha, Marsa, Chris, Kimmy, Morris, and even Destiny, it's safe to say this season of Love and Marriage, Huntsville is delivering more than anyone expected. And here's the thing, you need to keep watching this storyline because the fallout is far from over. Far from over.